All right, hello everyone. This morning, July 31st, we're going to do a brief analysis of BTC to see how it might go up or down. With this morning's outlook, should we go long or short? If we go long, at what price should we enter? And at what price should we short? Where should we take profit and set stop loss and why? So this is the video I'm making for everyone. Today, BTC's daily candle closed as a green candle with quite strong momentum. This shows a return of bullish strength. Previously, we saw the daily candles. Here, a doji candle signaling a trend reversal. And yesterday, I analyzed for everyone that this was a candle with wicks on both ends. A candle that looks like a pin bar with wicks on both ends, everyone, but it's still a green candle, so the upward momentum remains very strong. It retested the previous wick, which is this one. And as you can see, it moved up, and today it closed with a green candle with quite strong momentum. With momentum like this, we can see there's a very high probability it will retest this resistance zone. And with the candle closing as a green candle with such a long body, there's a high chance that BTC today will continue to rise close above this wick, and we'll see it retest this wick. That is 65,600. So how should we view things this morning? All right, now let's continue with the analysis. You can see on the daily candle that there's quite strong momentum with significant buying power, right? And there's a high probability that it will retest this wick at the 65,600 area. At the same time, we'll analyze the market share of the dollar, which is USDTD. Today, USDTD closed with a red candle. This red candle has very strong momentum. Previously, we saw a trend reversal, and today's red candle closed very strongly, so there's a high probability it could retest this area. 8.27% is a very high rate. If USDTD closes at the 8.27% area, then our BTC should rise somewhere around 65,600 to 66,000. Now let's continue analyzing on the H4 candle to see how things look. On this H4, let's look at its structure here. On the H4, I previously shared with everyone about an Elliott impulse wave, right? And the area we were expecting for USDTD to reach was somewhere around 8.35%. And right now it has reached that 8.35% area just as we wanted. But will it retest this area again? The 8.27% area, let's observe together. Yesterday, I analyzed with everyone that the Elliott impulse wave is currently in an uptrend with higher highs and higher lows. So here we can see that its bottom is unlikely to break below this low. That means at this point, USDTD must be going down. It won't break below this bottom, meaning it can't go below 8.27%. If it goes below 8.27%, then its uptrend structure of higher highs and higher lows will end, and it could turn back into a downtrend. But the probability is high that in this area, 8.35%, I think it's already met the conditions to continue rising. So at this point, we need to look at the 8.27% area to see if it can be broken or if it will just keep going up. In my opinion, at this 8.35% area is enough for it to continue rising to the 8.8% zone, because it still follows the structure of higher highs and higher lows. So if the structure is correct, then at this 8.35% area, it's enough for it to keep rising. At the same time, like for BTC earlier, I shared with everyone that its high and low structure is trending lower. Yesterday, I analyzed with everyone that in this peak area, this 64,700 zone is not sufficient, meaning it's not enough to form a peak here. And the next peak has to be somewhere in the range of 65,200 to 65,600. So that's the area where it will form the next peak. With the daily and H4 candles showing this kind of momentum, there's a high probability it could retest this peak. That's why I shared with everyone yesterday that we would enter a short order at which area? 65,000, order 1. The second order is that we can enter at 65,500. Here, my expectation is just for it to retest this peak. It can't break through this peak because its structure is showing lower highs and lower lows. So for it to satisfy that structure, it must not break above this peak. If it breaks above this peak, then according to the reaction method, we will draw a horizontal line through it. Here, we will draw a horizontal line through it. This is the line. If it breaks through this 65,600 zone, it means that the lower high and lower low structure has been broken, and at that point, it will return to an uptrend structure. But in my opinion, at this point, it still hasn't broken through the 65,600 peak. And in this 65,000 zone, it's already met the conditions to go down, meaning this area is already qualified to be considered a top. So there's a high chance that this area will be the top. And next, there will be a downward move to continue running this 64,500 level. So my view this morning is that I opened a short position at the 65,000 zone. The second order is at 65,600, and of course we'll cut somewhere around 66,200. Why is that? If it breaks through the 65,600 zone, then it will turn back into an uptrend structure. At that point, we no longer have a pattern of lower highs and lower lows. Instead, it will become an uptrend for Bitcoin again. That's why we have to cut our losses at the 66,200 zone. And if at this point it has already formed a sufficient peak and still follows the structure of lower highs and lower lows, then right here in the 65,000 zone, it has met the conditions to form a peak. The next low must be in this lower area. My first take profit TP1 is in this zone at 61,800 and 61,000. If it still follows the structure of lower highs and lower lows. So at this point, to sum up, my outlook for this morning is to short BTC in this area. When it forms a peak here, that's at 65,000 for an entry. The second entry is at 65,600 with a stop loss at 66,200. That means we expect this to be its peak and the next bottom will be down here, meaning the bottom must be lower than this one. If it continues to form a pattern of lower highs and lower lows, then the next bottom must be somewhere down here around 62,000 or even deeper at 61,000. So the take profit for this short order, TP1 is around 62,000 and TP2 is around 61,000. Did everyone get that? With this kind of structure, we can see that this peak meets the conditions, and this morning our trend will be to short, placing a short order right at the 65,000 area. The second order is at 65,600 with a stop loss at 66,200 and the targets are 62,000 and 61,000. That's my view on BTC for this morning. And as we can see, USDT has moved exactly according to the wave structure we expected yesterday. Yesterday at this area right here, I said that it wasn't enough yet to form a bottom here and that its bottom should be somewhere around 8.35. And now it's moving exactly to my 8.35% zone. And this area could be the bottom that this one formed. Most likely it will fluctuate around here and then continue to move up to a higher zone at 8.8%. If this really is the bottom, then its peak will be at this 8.8% area. And if USDTD is at the 8.8% zone, then our BTC should be at 62,000 and 61,000. Let's just observe for now. So what about the H1 time frame? On the H1, we can see that it's still in a pretty nice uptrend structure of higher highs and higher lows for USDTD. And we can see that on the daily candle, the H1 is still in a pretty nice downtrend structure of lower highs and lower lows. So what are we expecting? On H1 and H4, BTC is still in a downtrend structure of lower highs and lower lows, while USDTD is in an uptrend structure of higher highs and higher lows. And I hope it continues to follow that structure, that it keeps moving according to that structure, so we can have a winning trade. When it has already formed a peak in the 65,000 and 65,600 area, it will move down to the 62,000 and 61,000 area. That's my outlook for this morning. If you find this helpful, please click the notification bell and subscribe to the channel. And if anyone has any questions, please leave a comment below this video. I will answer your questions. Now let's talk a bit about ETH, shall we? As for ETH, I have repeatedly said that ETH is in a support zone and it's still in that support zone and its trend is still a very nice uptrend. ETH has never formed a downtrend. ETH is still in an uptrend with higher highs and higher lows, with this uptrend of higher highs and higher lows. And since this is a very strong support zone, it's highly likely that we'll see ETH's next peak at 2,000. And if the next peak is at 2000, we need to keep an eye on it. With ETH, we still need to look for long opportunities. Why is that? Because it's currently in a support zone and forming a pattern of higher highs and higher lows, and its uptrend is still ongoing. So we need to be cautious with short positions and absolutely should not short ETH. We should wait for it to return to support zones to open long positions and take profit at higher levels. Only when it breaks this structure of higher highs and higher lows, like here, this high and this high, it's still moving up and forming the next high around the 2000 zone. So we need to be cautious with ETH. With ETH, you should only look for long opportunities, everyone. Don't open short positions. It's very risky. All right, thank you.